ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ತಕ್ಕ ಜಣ್ಣು 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 ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರಿ ಗಿಡದಗ ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ತಕ್ಕ ಜಣ್ಣು ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರಿ ಗಿಡದಗ ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರಿ ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿನ್ ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರಿ ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿನ್ ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರಿ ಗಿಡದಗ ತ. Okay, it's recording. So, hello, I am Sudhi Seshachala from Millet Planet, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Vikas Gupta as part of our Balanced Lifestyle and Balanced Lifestyle Leads to Positive Life series. Vikas Gupta is a client of Organic Sphere and has been actively practicing a healthy lifestyle for several years. In this interview, he will share his inspiring journey with us. Without further ado, over to you, Vikas.
Thank you, Sudhi, for giving me the opportunity to talk about an area which is of utmost I'm passionate about. And I'll start with the famous quote, which I always look at as my driving force: let thy food be thy medicine and the medicine be thy food. This was a quote from Hippocrates way back in 400 and somewhere around 400 years before in the BC. Now, so knowing this, and it is as true as it was that day, this quote is as true today. Yet, why do we see that people are not having a healthy lifestyle? And so there are several reasons for that. The way, and I'll talk about what have I done to really be able to see the impact of food completely changing my lifestyle.
Sure.
I will just tell you one thing. I mean, there was the biggest driver was that I used to take thyroid medication for almost 25 years of my life. And I was told that with food, I'm able to get rid of the thyroid, which was not something that any doctor would have told me. But I completely believed in it. And that's one of the times that when I decided to give it a try. And since last 2 to 3 years, I have not taken any thyroid medication. In the process, I completely changed my lifestyle. So today, I'm not going to go into the details of how I fixed my thyroid, but with this basic changes in the lifestyle that I did, we can fix most of the ailments on the day-to-day that many of the people are facing today.
Sure.
So we'll start with the biggest issue. There are multiple things that impact our health. And the thing that we are going to focus today is primarily around food. And food is, the reason when I say food, as you can see that 90% of the problems that we have, ailments, diseases that we have, are caused by issues related to stomach, which is something that is an amazing number, that most of us are probably not aware of. And the other thing that most of us are not aware of is that our body is miraculous in terms of how it is capable of self-curing itself. And why is it that it's not able to cure itself for everybody? Because we are not giving it an opportunity to cure us. The stomach really gets to do the work when there is, there are multiple things, right? When there's food in the stomach has to focus on digestion of the food. Once it is done with that work, that's when it gets an opportunity to heal the rest of the body. And what are we doing these days with the abundance of food that we are having, most of us? And we are keeping the stomach at work almost 24/7. We hardly give it an opportunity to do its work. And so what can we do to make the stomach be able to do what we would love it to do other than digest our food? First of all, the food that goes into our stomach, we don't have the time and the patience to do the work that our mouth can do and make the work of the stomach easy. And what we can do for that is really chew our food well, where when the food goes into the stomach, it's already in the form of, literally in the form of liquid. And most of us we are in so much of a rush that we really don't take out enough time to eat, that our goal is just to fill the stomach and move on with our tasks. Instead, if we were to take the time and sit peacefully and eat by chewing it well, the work of the stomach is significantly reduced. And it's not just that, the saliva that we have in our mouth, it does miraculous things. I mean, it has the alkaline property, and it is able to mix completely with our food. And once it goes into the stomach, it neutralizes the acidity part of the stomach. So you will never have an acidity issue if you were to chew the food well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that it's not just about what we eat, it's about when we eat. So, which is the next point that I'm talking about. And before we go to the next, it's always a good idea to sometimes give some time off to the stomach. I mean, we all work hard, but we need time to recover. If we were to work 7 days a week and all the time, I mean, definitely, we'll break down. The same thing applies to the stomach. So if we are able to give some rest to the stomach, either daily or weekly or both, even better, I mean, that would help the stomach a lot. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. When I say daily, this is what I mean by time-restricted eating, which means if possible, and I mean, these are guidelines. I mean, we don't have to follow it exactly. Do the best you can in your circumstances, in your lifestyle.
Sure.
If possible, limit the eating window to be 8 hours. If you cannot do 8 hours, try 10 hours. But the key thing is that give yourself some time before you go to sleep, between the time you eat your last meal and the time you go to sleep, and the time that you eat your first meal of the next day. If you can, and this can be done through practice. I mean, a lot of people will just say that, no, I mean, there's absolutely no way I can give I'm going to be hungry if I were to eat 3 hours, if I were to sleep 3 hours after I eat my meal. Yes, you will be, if that's what you're used to. But trust me, it's all about practice. It's about training your brain. Once you train your brain, then you will not feel hungry. Same thing applies to when you get up in the morning, and there are people who just get up and the first thing they do is they just want to start eating. So ideally, if you can go anywhere from about minimum 12 to up to 16 hours from the time that you eat your last meal to the time that you eat your next meal.
Mm-hmm. So you suggest having an early dinner, then get some break between the meal and the sleep, and then have at least 12 to 14 hours for the breakfast the next day morning.
Yes, 12 to 14 hours from the time that you had your dinner.
Okay.
Right. So that includes the time that you go to sleep. So let's say if you sleep about 8 hours, and and if you have eaten 3 hours before, that's already 11 hours. And then you just wait a few more hours. I mean, then that's it. And you would have already, done 12 to 14 to 16 hours as much as you can. If you can go up to 16, great. But if you can do 14, that's very good too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The key thing is, I mean, the reason you also want to eat before you go to sleep, I mean, give some time, is because the stomach gets an opportunity to digest the food. So when you're sleeping, the stomach can do wonders by curing it can help you cure while you go to sleep. If you have eaten just before you go to sleep, the stomach is going to just be busy digesting the food most of the night, because our metabolism slows down. So you want to give again the stomach the opportunity to heal you. And that's part of the reason as well. And I have experimented it. with my lifestyle. I mean, it's not like I do it ideally every time. I mean, there are many times where you have no choice but to eat late. But anytime I am eating late, when I get up next morning, I definitely am not as energetic as I am if I were to eat early and sleep as recommend. So the next morning's energy level is clearly dependent on how much you let your stomach be at ease during the night.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that's why I think later on I also talk about, I mean, eat lighter dinner so that it's not just that you don't want to give too much work to the stomach when the metabolism slows down during the night.
You don't suggest skipping dinner though.
Well, if somebody wants to have, no, there is no reason to skip dinner, but having light dinner is preferred. At some point, I mean, especially at an older age, if somebody does want to skip dinner, I mean, that's an option, but you don't have to. But certainly eat early and eat light.
Okay.
And when you get up, I guess, I mean, like if you were to ask many people, what's the first thing you do? And I mean, if you were to ask me, like, there are people who say that, I need my morning coffee. And trust me, I mean, that's something that, makes you dependent on the coffee. I mean, nothing against coffee, but any kind of a stimulant, which is caffeine or any kind of a thing that you're dependent on, is not the good thing. The first thing you should do in the morning is drink water. Absolutely nothing. And there's multiple reasons for that. One is that it helps you clear your stomach, clear your bowels. And for that, it is recommended that you drink about a liter of water. So it may sound like a lot of water for a lot of people, but again, it's a question of habit. Start with as much as you can drink. If you can drink half a liter, start with half a liter. Normal room temperature water or slightly warm, and you can put a little bit of a lemon into it and just have it at ease. Just sit down at ease and drink it, and do not put too much gap between the time that you get up and the time that you have your water. The reason is, it's amazing how much stuff there is in our mouth, all the bacteria, and a lot of people, the first thing they do is they brush their teeth. And what you don't realize is all that bacteria that is in your mouth is the good bacteria that you don't want to spit out. Rather, you want it to take it into your stomach. And so for that reason as well, that when you drink the water, all that bacteria, and you literally, if you can, it's almost like, you gargle in your mouth and make sure that all that saliva that is generated during the night, it's like medicine in your mouth that you want to make sure that you take into your stomach. So those are the, that's how you want to start your day. And then after that, I mean, you can choose. There are multiple options. I mean, there are people who take green juice. There are people who take, apple cider vinegar. I mean, there's multiple things that are very useful in the empty stomach. And one of the questions that comes up is like, okay, if I've taken one thing, then my stomach is literally no more empty. So if you're telling me these are the 5 different things I can do on empty stomach, how can I do these 5 different things, or 2 different things, or 3 different things? What is recommended is keep a gap of 30 minutes between each of these things that are recommended for empty stomach. So let's say if I'm taking water, then give yourself about 30 minutes at least. The next thing, apple cider vinegar, mixed with water. Or one of the things that I really recommend, which in my view, I mean, I've been doing it for several years, is I take a mixture of turmeric powder, ginger powder, crushed black pepper, cinnamon powder, and I have made a mixture of that, and I just take a spoonful of that along with warm water, basically kind of gulp it. And that
So it's
is
like
really
you just mix certain portions, or is there any rule that you follow for while mixing this powders, or just arbitrarily you'll get a small portion of it?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there is a recommended proportion. I mean, primarily it is turmeric, I would say. So the majority of it is turmeric. And then I would say like maybe 10% of, or, 5% maybe of ginger powder, 5% of black pepper, and 5% of cinnamon powder. So you can think about like between that, maybe 10 to 20% is the rest of it, and 80% maybe turmeric powder. So it's primarily turmeric.
Sure.
And each of them are antioxidants, and I mean they have their own properties. I mean you can read up on it. They are very good for you, and rather than taking them all separately, I mean this is just one way of starting your day, and taking it on the empty stomach helps, because then the stomach is really completely ready to absorb it and make the most out of it.
Sure.
The other thing, I mean, these are not all the possible things. I mean, the other thing that I've started doing is the methi dana, right? I mean, what do you call the fenugreek seeds?
Fenugreek
right?
seeds, yeah.
Right. So I recently found out, I mean, that they are really, really beneficial for you. So I soak them overnight, and with just one spoonful of, one small spoon of fenugreek seeds, soak them overnight or even 24 hours. And then in the morning, drink the water and chew the seeds very well. And they are really helpful in removing any kind of knee issues or bone issues, in terms of arthritic issues and things like that. And I've personally seen my knee used to give aches, and with regular use of that, I've seen it pretty much almost disappear.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of such things. I mean, of course, we cannot go through all of those, but
yeah, absolutely.
start with, I would say, start with some of these things. I mean, almonds, walnuts, peanuts. I mean, they are good nuts. I mean, if you have soaked them overnight, and then you can start and eat some of those as well. And that's why, as you're taking all of these things, I mean, and you're putting a gap of at least 30 minutes between them, that itself will take away a few hours of your time in the morning, and you don't have to really eat the real meal for a few hours. And then when you're ready to eat, normally I personally start with fruits, because fruits are easy to digest, and it's best absorbed in the system also, again, on the empty stomach.
Okay.
So we don't eat anything heavy as the first thing, and then
first thing in the morning. Yeah.
First thing, meaning, like, I mean, and this is after you've had a couple of these different drinks and powders and all of that.
Yeah.
So water, and we talked about water, how important it is in terms of in the morning, but it's not just for the morning. But since 72% of our water, it is important that we are drinking water and taking care of it the entire day. Now, we don't want to also go overboard on water, because people who drink a lot of water can have issues where they will have, a reduction in their salt content of their body. So you want to kind of keep it, but at the same time, you also don't want to be dehydrated. But the part that I want to mention is that, there are two things about water. I mean, one thing is in terms of the relation to the meals. We have seen a lot of people are so used to having a drink, water or any other form of drink along with their meal. So that's a complete no-no, because, I mean, our Ayurveda clearly says And it is scientifically proven too, there is a science behind it,
Mhm.
that at least 30 minutes before your meal should be the last time that you had water.
Mhm.
And ideally, up to 1 to 1.5 hours after your meal, you should not have water. So which means that between almost 1.5 to 2 hours that you have no water between the during the meal, like 30 minutes before and about one the meal. And of course, with 30 minutes of meal, then you're like talking about almost 2 hours of no water time. And the reason is that water dilutes our digestive juices. So when we have our meal, part of the thing that happens, I mean, there's a lot of magic, happens in our stomach, where all different kinds of digestive juices are come out and help in the digestion of the food. If you're drinking a lot of water, then those juices are diluted, and again, it doesn't let the stomach do the best possible job on ensuring that the food is digested and the nutrients are extracted from the food. Because ultimately, it's not just about digesting the food, it's about also extracting the nutrients out of the food and ensuring that your body gets all the different nutrients that you are intaking. You don't want that nutrient to just pass through your system and be excreted.
And while having food, is it okay to drink water, or that's a strict no?
That's a strict no. I mean, if you are absolutely really, really thirsty, I mean, you can take one sip or something. Yes, no, absolutely no. So that's what I'm saying. So 30 minutes before, 1 hour after, and during the meal, all combined, that's 1.5 to about 2 hours of. And again, it will probably take time to get used to it if you're very used to drinking water. So I would say that you can slowly get into that habit if you really cannot. I mean, slowly reduce the quantity and get to zero.
Right. Okay. The other question I had was, what's the quantity of water generally in a day you can drink? I mean, each one of us have different capacities of water consumption, or we consume water based on the work that we do and how thirsty you feel. Summer, you tend to take more, but what is the kind of norm that you follow? Like, what is the quantity of water that you drink?
That's a good question. I used to think that the more the better, and that is definitely not the right thing.
Mhm.
And so for many years, I used to drink a lot of water, up to a gallon a day,
Wow. Mhm.
and then I used to, like when I would do my annual checkup, I mean, I would always start coming low on my sodium level, and I used to wonder what's going on, and then I basically, over time, I found out that actually, that's not the best thing. So I would say that everybody, as you said, I mean, depending on your lifestyle, depending on, like how much do you sweat during the day, one way or the other, you have to decide based on that. But your bodies will be able to give you the indication when it is thirsty. But I would say anywhere between 2 to 3 liters, depending on your body. And it may be more if you are, like sweating a lot and doing a lot of workout and things like that. So that part is not counted. I mean, this is for a normal lifestyle. But if you're sweating, of course, you have to replenish that. That is separate.
Okay.
So there is no hard and fast rule, but there are some, you can Google it and find out there are some ballpark numbers based on your weight, based on your, body type, and, male, female. I mean, it will tell you. So get an approximate idea, but you don't. And the other thing is, when you're drinking the water, drink it in sips, so that's why we say that chew the water. So which means that that's another mistake I have learned over the time, that like if you drink the water in large quantities at the same time, then most of it is going to be wasted. And if you really drink it in sips, then it's really going to be absorbed and going to be and you can actually and basically it will basically do the right things.
Okay. Okay. Great.
I mean, just in if you can even change this basic habit of taking sip by sip water,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are people who claim that you can lose a lot of weight,
Oh,
and
really?
they have claimed successfully, yes, because it is amazing of what it can do when you're drinking it sip by sip. I mean, that it gives the opportunity for the body to absorb it and really take the nutrients and make you a lot more energized as well. It's
Right.
what we don't realize is that water actually gives us a lot of energy.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Sure. And in terms of the sweet tooth craving, I mean, yes, I mean, these days we all hear that, yes, sugar is not good for you. The thing is that it's not that we should stop taking anything sweet. It's about avoiding to eat the sugar, which is the processed sugar. And one of the things that, Sudhi, I mean, like, I buy a lot of your palm jaggery, right? Which I haven't shown here, but that's one of the things. I mean, if you know that it's a good source of sweetener, which is a natural sweetener, there is nothing wrong with taking those sweet things because our body is capable of absorbing that sweet. I mean, there is sweetness in the fruits, there is sweetness in the honey, there is sweetness, in agave and things like that. And I use those sweeteners and a lot of the palm jaggery that again, it has to be sourced from the right source. So it's pure, because I mean, even that, if it is not, if it is, sometimes, I mean, there may be sugar added and things like that. So it will not serve the purpose. So that's if you can get the good source quality of the sweeteners, then they are absolutely fine.
Sure.
And dates is another thing which I take, but I mean, I would say with palm jaggery is probably one of the best things.
Sure.
And similarly for the oils, I mean, I've shown you a bunch of these oils that many people, without having any knowledge, are using these for their cooking of their meals, like sunflower, safflower, soya, corn, canola. I mean, all of these, if there's anything that is, I mean, this is one of the worst things, I would say. It's even worse than sugar, because sugar, what you eat, can be eliminated from the body in a shorter time, but the omega-6 fatty acids that are generated by these oils, they are highly inflammatory, and they are really, really bad for you, and they cause long-term damages in many, many different forms, and it manifests in different ways. So I would highly, highly recommend that pay attention to that. We don't have to go, I mean, there are people who say that do not eat anything that is cooked with oil. You don't have to do that. If you can, again, get a good quality oil.
Yeah.
Ideally, I mean, like, people are now realizing and going back to that, if it is the bull-driven oil, which means that it is sourced from a place where it is done the way traditionally it has been done for centuries. And that's another thing that, I'm fortunate that we have Organic Sphere here, that we are able to get some of those oils, and knowing that they're getting it from the right source. So coconut oil is one of those, peanut oil is good, and also some of these that you get in places like Costco, the avocado oil. So I've mentioned a few of these. Now, olive oil is also, you have to be careful that it is good, but at the same time, it has to be, again, from a good source, and it's not meant for high temperature cooking, because I mean, it's really okay for using it on the cold food, but not meant for frying things or like, where the temperature is heated. But the rest of the things that I mentioned here are certainly, sesame oil and even the ghee. They are good for, as long as they are the source from the right quality.
Yeah, yeah. I wish we could have changed that slide, but that's okay. That's just a marketing gimmick. I know you've been buying from organic sphere, but we do have the coconut oil, then the sesame oil, peanut oils. We have safflower oil, not the sunflower oil. And then we recently even started mustard oil. That's something
Right.
that you were asking quite a bit, but we do have mustard oil as well now.
Right, right. And no, I mean, and so this is just saying generically, but as I said, if we can get from the good quality source, and that's why I said that, this is where getting it from organic sphere is, and knowing, trusting someone who we know
Right.
get it from the right source is very important.
Right.
And so I think we're almost done. We just also talk about the drinks. I mean, from my perspective, all of these soft drinks are a complete no-no. I mean, I've
Mhm.
eliminated all of these from my diet. And none of my guests, if somebody visits me, I never serve any of these things. So it's not just that I don't take it. I also will never serve these things to any of my guests. If you come to our place, I mean, we'll always give you lemon water. And if you want it sweet, I'll put some kind of natural sweetener, but not the sugar. So that's
Oh,
how.
no, so you're saying no soda, absolutely no soda, no soda, absolutely. Like even that zero Coke or 0% Coke or whatever we have, none of those.
Those are probably as bad or even worse sometimes, because sometimes they will put some other form of sweetener, which is which we don't even know what kind of things they are putting in to get to that. So yes, I would say eliminate any kind of soda from your pantry. I mean, you shouldn't even have it, and stop looking at it. I mean, there are many other forms of drinks. I know if you are used to, it may take you time, but the ingredients of these are not even known. I mean, sugar is one aspect. If you look at the amount of sugar it has,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of it, we don't even know what kind of things that are in there. But there were people who experimented with it, and I can tell you that you can save a lot of money on your dental with your dentist if you stop taking these. And that's where I learned it. In the very beginning, I used to not realize it and have it. And suddenly I had a bunch of cavities when I had zero cavities for all my life. And the last time I had any of these drinks was probably 30 years ago. And so I've not touched any of that knowingly, at least.
Sure, sure. And how about these vegetable juices and I see on the big retail outlets, I mean stores, I see those naked juice or something like that. What is your opinion on those as drinks?
Well, I mean, it is about the trust. I mean, some of them may be good, and I don't know which of them to trust. So I try as much as possible to just do it at home.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't take much effort to get the fruits and make the fresh juice at home. So it's a little bit of an effort, but it is, we are so used to so much convenience that, like, we have machines these days that make our lives so much easy. It doesn't take really much effort to do that. And the taste cannot be beaten, because anything that is fresh, if you have the same fresh juice that let's say you take out orange juice, if you have it after a few hours, it loses the value. So if somebody has to make sure that that orange juice can be sold for days and weeks and months, they have no choice but to add some form of way to preserve.
Preservatives, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I always question that, even if it is 100% pure, yes, it's better than the other forms where, like, it's not 100% juice. But certainly if you had to choose between the two, but if you have a choice, then I would do it at home.
Okay.
And same thing for the food. I mean, you can say, yes, you can buy a healthy meal in the restaurant, but I would completely avoid all forms of processed foods for the reasons that many of these things that we talked about, the oils, we talked about the sugars. I mean, you don't control what is put into these things. And And of course, we haven't gone into many of the things, other ingredients like, other than sugar, there's flour, there is, so we will discuss it separately, but I would just tell you in a simple way, if possible, as much as possible, minimize eating outside, and fast food should be the last thing that you should eat. Anything that is sourced from, where you open a packet and eat with convenient, and all these convenience foods are probably the worst for you.
Okay.
And if you take care of some of these basic things, I understand, we have talked about quite a few things, but you can just do one thing at a time, and slowly make changes to your lifestyle. I can guarantee that many of the ailments, many of the medications that you potentially will either are taking today or may need in the future can be avoided and give you a lot of happiness, which you may think that, a lot of people say that, you have one life. Why do you want to avoid taking all of these luxuries of life? But I can tell you that with the lifestyle change, once you get used to it, you will not at all feel that you're missing anything in life. Even if somebody brings a donut in front of me, I would absolutely have no craving, zero craving for it. That it's not even that I feel like I wish I could eat it. So it's just a question of training yourself.
Sure.
And the beauty is that you will have healthy and medicine-free life. Thank you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, I think you already asked what is, I already thought of asking you this, your motivation and inspiration, but you did mention earlier. The second one I have is, what were some of the challenges you faced when transitioning to this balanced lifestyle? How did you overcome them?
Well, some of the challenges, it's not just, one thing is because if your body is used to certain things, it takes time to, it takes a lot of discipline to get your mind to agree to the new lifestyle. So it is very easy to give in to doing those things. It's not like I used to never like sweets. I used to all kinds of sweets when I look back. But so it during the transition phase is always a challenging phase, because you are going from doing certain things to not doing those. And so I would say that transition period is the biggest challenge. But you have to remind yourself, every day, every moment, that there is nothing more important than your health. Health is wealth. At the end of the day, if you may have all the money in the world, but if your health is not good, there is no value for that money. But if your health is good, then nothing else matters. So just remind yourself that every day. And I would say it will take a few weeks of that once you get used to it. The other thing is, whenever you are invited to a friend's place, and even that is even today a challenge, and it was a bigger challenge earlier, is that everybody just insists. They say, come on, take it for our sake. We did this. We made it at home. You can take a little bit. And I would say that when you go 100% is much easier than going 90%. Because as soon as you say, yes, 90% of the time I'm not going to take it, but I'll leave the 10% for once in a while, I'll have it, then you are going to, that's a slippery slope. Before you know, you will be back into this original lifestyle. So 100%, if you avoid, certain things that you have decided, just do it 100% is better. And that I apply only for the sweets. There are times if I'm traveling, of course, sometimes, we don't have any choice, but I'll do the best possible in the circumstances. I'm not going to stay hungry in that case.
Sure. Okay, thank you. It was very insightful. Hopefully this was very helpful for our viewers. Appreciate your time. I can't thank you enough. You have been very, very helpful giving me this interview. Thank you so much. I would like to share a little bit more, but I'll share it offline. The most recent things that we are doing at Organic Sphere, I'll share it offline. It's not ready for prime time, but I'll share it with you.
No, thank you very much, Sudhi. And it's, as I always say, that I'm very thankful that we have a source of good quality food, because that's very hard to find these days, because everybody is trying to make sure that, they're making, doing business. So their primary focus is to ensure that they can maximize their profits and not necessarily thinking about the health of the people. So that is one good thing I really like about whatever I buy from the Organic Sphere. I'm comfortable, and even if I have to pay a little bit extra, which I'm not saying that we have to, but I would rather in the long run, I know I'm saving money, a lot more money in that process.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. You have a good day.
Okay. All right, you too. Bye.
Okay, I think I stopped. Yeah, just go ahead with that. You mentioned something about the flower. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing that I have read, there was a famous Ayurveda teacher, Bhagwat, right? And so he, from his book, what he mentioned was that from the time that the flour is milled to the time that we consume it, it should be done within a week. And that is a challenge, because most of the time, if you buy flour from a store, it's probably several weeks already, and we all tend to buy in bulk. So that's one of the things. It's hard to meet that, but the quality, the value of the food diminishes over time, and which we don't realize. You may be eating the same thing, but if you can eat within a week of the time that the flour is milled, that is perfect.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Sure.
ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ತಕ್ಕ ಜಣ್ಣು 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 ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರೆ ಗಿಡದಗ ತಕ್ಕ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ತಕ್ಕ ಜಣ್ಣು ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರೆ ಗಿಡದಗ ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರೆ ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿನ್ ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರೆ ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿನ್ ತಳಂಗು ಗಿಡದಗ ದಿಗುತರೆ ಗಿಡದಗ ತ